Serious, the ascent of billionaires is a symptom and outcome of an immoral system that tells people affordable insulin is impossible but exploitation is fine. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What are your thoughts on this? If you want to get a little more outraged, Sir Frederick Banting, Canadian, gave away the patent for insulin so that it wouldn't be expensive. He is quoted as saying, "Insulin does not belong to me, it belongs to the world." www.cdmedhall.org. Inductees Frederick Banting. I've never had to depend on insulin, but I do have to take anti-rejection medicine every 12 hours for the rest of my life or else I will die, and it is expensive as hell, and it used to be worse before there was generic tacrolimus. I remember losing my job and it was a devastating blow. I was desperate to get my medicine, and it cost over $3,000 for a 1-month supply. It's no way to go through life. If everyone had experienced what I've gone through in my life, there wouldn't be a question in their mind whether healthcare is a right or privilege. We need to pool our money and take care of everyone regardless of their financial status. Does your hospital have a social worker? I am in the same boat, but due to my lower income I am supplied in Varsis and Celicept by the manufacturer at no cost. Yes, precisely, this is what I had to do too. What happens if you miss the medication for 1 day? Rejection of the transplanted organ. It happened to me once before. I had to get infusions of 4 steroids to get it under control. If you can't get the rejection under control, your body mounts an autoimmune attack against the transplanted organ and you can die of that. As a diabetic, when I was 9, my immune system decided to kill my pancreas' ability to produce insulin. Insulin, being a biologically derived medicine, is not subject to ever becoming available as a generic. Right, absolutely, insulin definitely needs to be subsidized right now. Nothing about insulin conforms to free market capitalism. It's a necessity for some and a scarcity, so it can charge at any rate and people will have to find some way to pay. It's unfair. But the same is true for some other medicines as well. Insulin doesn't need to be subsidized, it's dirt cheap to produce. It needs to be price regulated. Yes, precisely. Subsidized implies we should pool money to put into the pocket of those who set the price high. To hell with them. The problem with accumulating wealth at any cost is that it's an extremely short-sighted view. Corporations think in quarters rather than decades or centuries. I'm not advocating for the Soviet brand of communism or whatever China is doing this week, but we need some long-term thinking that includes the good of the world and humanity in general, while also understanding that people are individuals, not cogs in a machine. Also, monopolies need to be broken up and dealt with harshly. No business wants to compete with anyone else, every business wants to become a monopoly and corner the market. That's why there need to be safeguards. Companies need to be made wary of becoming a monopoly. That might force them to engage in some fair practices and care about consumers for a change. I think it would be really interesting if the US clarified that a CFO's fiduciary responsibility was to the whole lifetime of the company and not just the current time. Then they couldn't shoot down ideas by saying it's not financially responsible. Consider an example. Let's say the CEO of a Fortune 50 company wants to publicly endorse a carbon dividend plan to fight climate change. Someone in the business runs an analysis and finds it might cost $500 per year. The company makes $12 billion in profits, but even then, $500 is a lot of money. The market wants companies to grow by 4% annually, not endorse plans that will lose 4%. The CFO says that she can't endorse, because as the fiduciary of the company it's irresponsible. However, it's probably just 30 years' time until the company will be paying $500 because of climate change. And without some action, that cost will grow to $1 billion in inflation-adjusted terms in 60 years. Over time, the CFO would save the company more money by endorsing the dividend program. If she saw herself as a long-term fiduciary, she might be able to endorse the plan. Put another way, she'd have some cover to explain to the market why the company must take the action. Even if it costs the business annually $5 billion from climate change, it still would not be worth it because 1. It is in 30 years' time. The 500 meters saved could have been invested somewhere. 2. There is no guarantee that climate change will be mitigated just because the company did all they could and spent 500 meters. For all they know, their competitors could be doing business as usual and they just shot themselves in the foot. The only way is for the government to give companies a push, financially through carbon taxes. Relying on goodwill is retarded and acting out of goodwill is equally retarded for a company. Goodwill only makes sense if there are benefits associated with acting that way. I think this is the key point really. Companies have no incentive to do anything that doesn't make them money directly, because their literal purpose is to make a profit. So we can't be surprised when they price gouge because hey, it's good for their bottom line. The only thing that works to establish a more equitable social order is regulations. And not even in the sense that these companies are evil and need to be punished, but in the sense that companies are there to make money. We understand that, so we're gonna set rules on what you can do to make money so that you don't cause harm to society as you do it. Capitalism, or whatever you want to call our current economic system, does not prohibit free insulin. Source: UK Diabetic right here. I think this is a US problem, not a fundamental issue with the Western economic system. Agreed. This question is about a very American issue. Literally all of Europe do not have this issue. It's not even a free healthcare problem. Let us import our drugs. Exactly. It's well reported that Americans near the Canadian border will come to Canada to buy insulin for 10% the price they would pay in the US. Well, I suppose that's before COVID meant they weren't allowed to cross the border. I wonder how many people that's screwed over. Damn. Notice how insulin prices are only an issue in the US and not in most European countries. That is because European politicians are usually not in beds, sometimes literally, with pharma companies and strong regulation is a thing. But in the US, regulation and taxes are dirty words, except for all the taxes and regulations you have. The current system is short-sighted and doesn't take into account the obvious, natural tendencies of human beings. For example, once you get rich, you are naturally going to start spending a certain amount of money trying to influence how your business is regulated and how you personally are taxed. The system should be immune to the lure of that money, either because it's illegal to take, or because it is ruthlessly tracked and voters are made aware. What we have now is a system where the rich did exactly this. They paid for some influence. With that influence, they got the rules changed so they could make more money to donate. Once it became crazy expensive to win office, it was in the interests of both the rich and the politicians to change how it was possible to donate, and how donations were tracked. So the rich have started to capture our democracy. It hasn't worked completely yet, but the trend is there and it's getting worse every election cycle, whether we realize it or not. We've blown way past this. You know, I have no problem with the existence of billionaires. I don't give a shit about the haves. The issue is the have-nots. As long as everyone has enough, I don't care if some people have too much, but many of the ones who have too much got that much by not contributing to the welfare of society as a whole, lobbying for tax breaks, hiding their money, underpaying employees, etc., and that is an immoral system. To give an example, in the fictional Star Trek universe there are clearly those who have more than others. Picard may say that they don't use money, but Starfleet admirals sure do seem to have better stuff than frontier tradesmen. But in this hypothetical universe with interstellar travel and matter replicators, everyone has enough. They always have food, advanced medical treatment, vacations or shore leave, time in VR, etc. It doesn't matter that some people live better lives as long as everyone's life is good, but if some are thriving on the backs of others suffering, there is still a great deal of progress to be made in society. And real life isn't Star Trek. Also, I have not accounted for the effect of billionaires on the political system, because I can't think of any way to prevent them from having an outsized effect. But repealing Citizens United would be a good start. There are 37 developed or first world nations in the world. America is the only one that doesn't have a single-payer or universal healthcare. All 36 others do. That she says shocking shit for attention. Affordable insulin and billionaires can and do coexist. Edit: China has both. It's not quality insulin and the billionaires got to where they are by more nefarious means, but they have both. Falsy dichotomyok presence there. She is painting a picture of either billionaires or affordable insulin, completely false and misguiding. We would probably not have any modern insulin today without capitalism. That is not to say, capitalism is not at fault in many other things. Yes, the system is broken, but it is not fixed by revengefully punishing some and rewarding others. It's much more complex than just this versus that. Capitalism is supposed to prevent this kind of thing. Corporation gets too big and leaner meaner companies take a bite out of their ass and take them down. The problem is Congress is in the pockets of the rich, so they will write laws to protect you, and if you fail they will give you money to keep from going under. No entity, even government, should govern morality. Do I want to go back to medieval era or what? It's obvious to a 101 student of both philosophy and economics that since you only have one life that most people would do anything to keep for as long as possible, that therefore demand of medical procedures is inelastic. Therefore, in a capitalist society, cost of medicine should go up as fast as possible within reason and competition will allow. Capitalism is ducking fine and dandy. But it's not a fucking one-size-fits-all, and America seems to think it is since drinking the Reagan Kool-Aid. Capitalism should get the fuck away from education, healthcare, and journalism. It's a pretty good solution for most other things.